I know you want more podcast listeners, and it's not because I'm a mind reader, but it's because it's what every podcaster wants. So in this episode, I'm sharing 3 ways to increase your podcast downloads without burning yourself out. Let's get right into it. Welcome to the Podcast Cafe, where we're serving up everything you need to know about podcasting, from tips, stories, and strategies for podcasters from podcasters. I'm your host, Hayleigh Hayhurst, the founder of Espresso Podcast Production, a full-service podcast agency helping business owners, creatives, and thought leaders launch and grow their shows. Whether you're just starting out or want to take your podcast to the next level, this is the place for you. Each week, we'll dive into practical tips, actionable strategies, and of course, stories from other podcasters so that you can build up a podcast that you love and that works for your business. So grab your coffee, get comfortable, and let's get started. Welcome to the Podcast Cafe. This podcast episode is great for anyone who's already a few seasons in, or maybe even a few years into your podcast, because I'm not here to tell you just to be consistent or just ask people to leave a review on your podcast. You already know that, right? I don't have to say that. But today, what I'm here to do is share 3 specific things that you can do now to boost your podcast downloads, deepen your listener engagement, and make your episodes go further without working overtime. We're diving right in because these are my espresso shot episodes, so they're short, just quick shots of strategy. Number 1 is repurpose each podcast episode into a content funnel. This is my biggest pet peeve in the podcast space. So many podcasters work so hard to get the perfect guest, to get the perfect questions, to get the perfect edits, to get the perfect episode. They have to write the perfect show notes. They do all these things perfectly, and then they post it, and then nothing happens after that. They think they're done, when really that is where the magic of podcasting happens. And that's really where it first starts, right? Like, yes, you have to do all this work to get the most amazing podcast episode that you can. But if you post it and you think you're done, you're missing out on all the listens, literally, because this is where people actually come to consume what you've worked so hard to create. This is the biggest mistake I see in the podcast space, is people treating their podcast content and episodes like one and done. Once you post, there's just crickets. You're like, where are all the listeners? Well, did you talk about it? Did you post clips? Did you create blog posts? Did you send it out to your newsletter if you have one? This is what I want you to do, is I want you to think of each episode as a campaign, okay? Each episode is a opportunity to create another piece of content from it. So here's how I do it, and if you follow these steps, your podcast downloads will increase. Okay, number 1, in this step 1, create 3 to 5 pieces of content from every single episode. So this could be, let's say, 2 video clips, 1 carousel, a quote card, and a blog post or newsletter. You can do a variety of those. You can do more, you can do less, whatever, but at least do those. Create 3 to 5 pieces of content. Number 2 is, if you're having guests, utilize the collaborative Instagram post feature where you can add a collaborator to your reels or posts. This is a huge opportunity for visibility, because if you're doing solo episodes, great. There's other strategies that we can go down, but this is one of the most underutilized opportunities that I see in the podcast space on Instagram specifically, is you just tag the guest or you just write the caption about them, but you're not using that collaborative feature. And that is huge for getting in front of their audience too. And number 3, I will say that you need to have a call to action in each piece of content that you're creating. So not just the podcast episode itself, but also the clips, the carousels, the quote cards, the blogs, the newsletters, is have a call to action, whether it's go listen, save this, share this, have something there. Most of the time I would recommend you, especially for blog posts or LinkedIn posts, is to link the podcast right there. So what I do is I write Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube all in a line, and then I just hyperlink with those correct links. The easier you make it for the listener, the more likely they are just to click that link, press play, and go about their day. Once you give your audience multiple touch points and formats, you increase the chance that they'll go and like it and click it and listen to it. And unfortunately, I have to share this with you. Most people are not going to listen to your podcast the first time you promote it. So let's say you post it in a story and that's like your one post for the week. People are going to click by it. But when they continue to see you posting about it through these different formats, it might be the third or the fourth or the fifth time that they see it, that angle or that clip or that quote hits and they go and listen. Okay, number 2. I want you to optimize your episode titles for search and clicks, because I know that your episodes might be deep and vulnerable and beautifully created, but if the title doesn't hook people and the show notes don't have SEO and there's just no details, people are going to scroll right past it. So let's start treating your title specifically as mini headlines. I have a client, she's an author, and her headlines are always so good, and it's because she's been doing this for a long time. But when you haven't been a writer or these things don't come natural to you, that doesn't mean just don't do them. It means you might need some support from either an expert like me. I'm not even going to lie, ChatGPT can help you with creating great titles for your podcast. And a tip here is if you're posting it on YouTube, the title of the podcast and the thumbnail should be different titles for clickability. Okay, quick tip right there. So yeah, start treating your titles like mini headlines. So lead with results, questions, strong emotions. Use keywords that your audience is actually going to listen to. So it goes down to like, who are they? You have to know this first and foremost. But here's what would work better than just like episode 42 with Jane Doe or, episode 8 or just the guest name, right? You are going to want to say like how to grow a podcast with podcast strategist Hayleigh Hayhurst, or why your business needs a podcast with podcast expert Hayleigh Hayhurst. Something like that is way more powerful than just like episode 2 with Hayleigh. No one's going to know that. Like, no one cares who I am. No one cares who your guests are unless they are big names. And I think this happens when we see Joe Rogan and Call Her Daddy and Diary of a CEO. Even Diary of a CEO has great titles. So go check them out for some ideas. But it can't just be the episode number and the guest name. So don't be afraid to test out like click-worthy or curiosity-driven titles. Even if they're a little bit clickbaity, test them out because you can always change them later. And then tip number 3 I have for you is you need to make it really easy for listeners to binge your show. I know this sounds like stupid, but when someone does find your podcast, you want them to stick around. So here's how I would do it. Make sure your trailer is always up to date. I listen to a lot of people's trailers when they come to me for strategy sessions, and that's one of the homework that they have is to update their trailer because they haven't listened to it since they launched 3 years ago. So update your trailer. That'll be one of the first things people listen to. You could also create a start here or fan favorite collection. I would do this by creating a blog post or some lead magnet, some way that people can click on this. Blog post is probably going to be the easiest. And you could say fan favorite episodes and link them all, or start here and then just like link them one by one. That's probably what I would do if you're trying to create this sort of like, you have a lot of episodes, categorize them in some way. Okay. And then one of the easiest ways that I don't see enough people doing, big name people are doing this, well-known podcasters are doing this, but I don't see a lot of people doing this in the indie niche podcast space, is mention past episodes by name in the recording or in the show notes to cross-promote and increase your average listener across that platform. If I was sharing like, here's these tips for social media, I'd say I have an episode with Emma Tessler, who is a social media expert whose podcast is stop scrolling, start scaling. Okay, go listen to that episode. I will literally put that in the show notes. Like, actually, go check. And if you're not the biggest fan of social media, I have an episode with Amelia Ruby, who's the host of Off the Grid podcast, who talks all about marketing strategies without social media. So go listen to those too and hear which one better fits you and what you like to do, and also get ideas from both of them. I love social media, but I got great ideas from Amelia. And I thought I knew a lot about social media, but I also got great advice from Emma. So go listen to those episodes. But that's a perfect example of how to cross promote past episodes in your current episodes. Because as we compound our podcast guests and topics, it's going to be harder for the listener to go and like scroll and see, okay, I think I want to listen to that one. Recommend them what to listen to. It makes it so much easier for them to navigate through your sea of content. So think of this as your bingeability factor. If someone listens to one episode and loves it, but has no idea where to go next, they're not going to go anywhere. So make it easy for them to find where to go. Okay, so there you have it. There's the 3 ways that I would increase your podcast downloads without reinventing the whole wheel or burning yourself out. So just to recap, number 1, repurpose your content like it's a full-on campaign. Number 2, write strong, more clickable titles. And number 3, build bingeability into your podcast listener experience. And if you're already doing these things, amazing. Keep going. Podcast growth is something very compounding. And then if you're not doing these, start doing it now. So I hope this episode was helpful. I'd love it if you would come and connect with me on Instagram. Let me know what questions you have and what you're working on. It's me who answers all the DMs I get on both LinkedIn and Instagram, and you will never know how happy it makes me when someone listens to the podcast and comes and tells me how much it was helpful for them. So as always, thank you for tuning in, and I will see you in the next episode. Thank you so much for joining me in the Podcast Cafe. I hope you're leaving with fresh ideas and inspiration to take your podcast to the next level. Remember, podcasting is a journey and you don't have to do it alone. I'm here to help you every step of the way. Let's connect. Be sure you follow me on Instagram at Espresso Podcast Production or visit espressopodcastproduction.com for more tips, resources, and behind the scenes insights. I'd love to hear about your podcasting journey. If you've enjoyed today's episode, make sure you hit subscribe so you never miss an episode. And if you're feeling extra generous, I'd love it if you could leave me a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. It helps more podcasters just like you find the show. Until next time, grab your coffee, keep creating, and I'll see you back here in the Podcast Cafe.